Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Education, a chance for you to hear directly from the Boulder Valley School District's team on important topics in our schools. As you may know, late last week, our partners in public health, both in Boulder and Broomfield counties, extended stay-at-home orders through Friday, May 8th. Meanwhile, this week, the rest of the state, under Governor Poles' advice, has moved to a safer at home plan, which went into effect. It essentially encourages people to stay home as much as possible, but starts to reopen the state, following the more restrictive social distancing measures that were meant to slow COVID-19. Under all the plans, the Boulder Valley School District and other school districts across the state have remained closed to in-person learning. And infectious disease experts are warning that this virus could well last in our schools or in our community all the way through the fall, impacting our schools. In a couple minutes, we'll be talking to a panel of BVSD teachers, administrators, and others that are working on this learning, making sure that it goes well, and helping and supporting our families during these difficult times. I'd like to go ahead and introduce everybody that's on our panel today. First, University Hill second grade teacher Marina Orozco-Ngu is here. Additionally, Ryan Elementary fifth grade teacher Taren Villecco. John Riggs, the principal of Manhattan's School of Arts and Academics. Paul Strode, Fairview High School's IB, AP Biology, Anatomy and Science Research Seminar teacher. Sorry, that's a little bit of a mouthful. And BVC Area Superintendent Margaret Crespo. Margaret oversees the schools in the southwest part of our district, including South Boulder, Louisville, and Superior. I'd like to say hello to everybody, and thank you so much for taking time this afternoon to join us. And before we begin, I'm just going to bring up a slide real quick here and remind everybody that we do have a couple ways that people can participate during our show. If you have a question for us, if you want to add something, we would definitely welcome you to do that. We have three ways that you can go about it. We've got a form that's at bit.ly/Let's Talk BVSD. You can also go to our Facebook or Twitter accounts and leave a message on our accounts there, and we will bring them up during the show. So we'll go ahead and start with Margaret. I just want to bring her into the picture here and talk to her a little bit about. We know that this has been a tough situation for everybody, from the stay-at-home orders, the impact that it's having on jobs. This is the fifth week of home learning, and we just want to start with how are things going out there?
Well, Randy, thanks very much for the question. I would start by saying none of this is possible without our incredible teachers, our administrators, our parents, our community, and our kids. The kids certainly have jumped in right away and connected, and parents are doing the best they can through the process. Our teachers, as we all know, changed on a dime and decided that they would certainly help us through this process, and many of them have become superstars in our system. I think part of our process at this point is we've worked out most of the kinks. We want to make sure that if families are still struggling getting on internet or still struggling connecting, that they let us know, because we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity. We are getting feedback, and as we take that feedback, making adjustments moving forward. Teachers seem to be in a really good stride. We know that the benefit of having limited screen time is helpful, so we're trying to keep and honor that piece as well, and just looking for new and creative ways to engage our students and our community in ways to educate kids and figure out how we move forward in this new learning environment, determining how long it will happen.
And as I was kind of started saying before, I got a little bit mixed up with where I was in my script, but this has been tough on a lot of people. I'm so excited to have kind of a panel of educators to talk to us today, because as they've had to stretch and get into a new platform, that's been difficult. But we also know this is really tough on our parents who, they may be working essential jobs and out there doing things. They're not used to supporting students in this sort of way. This has been a stretch for everybody.
It absolutely has been a stretch, and we want to make sure that people know that we're here to support and process and move forward. And I will share that part of our learning has been, how do we balance the fact that families are working and teachers are working and our administrators are working at the same time that they have kids at home and are trying to figure out what that looks like and how to provide a sustainable educational opportunity for them.
I know that you're a working mom and you have a son. And I know that you don't want to necessarily be the example of, but you are trying to balance all this as well. And I know that you and I have had conversations, in between trying to get to another meeting or whatever, where I know just a few minutes ago we were dealing with a nuclear level meltdown here at this house. And this is what everybody is going through right now. Talk to me about how you're trying to balance things as well.
Well, Randy, that's a great question because you're right. There are a number of nuclear meltdowns that happen on a regular basis. My husband's also essential, so often it's just me here with him, and you just try to balance and find time. I would say that lots of resources and toolkits. We've tried lots of methods. We've tried lots of structure, no structure at all that feels a little bit like a free-for-all. That is not as effective for him, but I'm sure for some learners it is. Super patient, really just understanding that he is doing the best he can and that I'm doing the best I can. I do make a commitment every single day, whether it's in the morning or the evening, just to check in on the work, look over what he's doing, make sure that he's staying up to date. He's 10 years old, so even for some adults, executive functioning is difficult. So making sure that we're keeping track of where he is. I connect with his teacher when possible. And really also giving him a lot of space to figure out what his needs are. And if there's something that he wants to do, giving him that opportunity as well. And then just managing through, because when they do have really difficult times, it feels like you're a terrible parent. I can tell you that I have felt that way. Like, I'm terrible at this. How can I not? I'm an educator, lifelong educator. Lots of grace for yourself, lots of breathing. And then I find a way to play at least one time a day with him as well, even if that's literally playing a naming game, something that's engaging him outside of school or me asking if he's done. Today he took a mud bath, came in and was drenched. Had to take a break so that I could tell him to get in the shower. So you work through those things.
Well, and again, I think that it's so great that you're talking about that because we get it. I think that's sometimes the feedback that we get is that we're oblivious to what some people are having to go through. And there is such a huge spectrum between parents that, maybe there's a stay at home or whatever where they can kind of focus on this. Not to say that that's not stressful in its own way, not being able to get out and all this being, on you. But the idea of also, that there are siblings that are being taken care of by by a kid in the family and what that looks like, and the fact again that maybe a parent just doesn't have time if they're working in a hospital long hours. That's something that we're thinking about as we're working forward here.
Yes, and I would just say and echo that anything a parent needs, support that we can give, provide a learning plan or support from a teacher or just somebody to call and say, look, I'm in a hot spot, right? Like, we have support services available. We have contacts to be made. Your principal can provide support as well. Because even for me, who, yes, I have a situation where I can take a break when I need one. There are a lot of people that, you're right, don't have that opportunity, and we want families to know that we are here to support them. We don't want our kids to struggle. We don't want our parents or community to struggle. We will help deliver as much as we can for support. And even if that's just a phone call. I spoke to a parent not too long ago who just was like, I just need to know that I'm okay. And I was like, you're great. You know what? You're calling. You're great. You're engaged. Let us help you. So absolutely.
I know that you happen to live in another school district, so you get to see kind of what they're doing. You've got a lot of friends in other school districts where you've worked or that you've had friends, that you've got connections to. Give us kind of an idea of, how does Boulder Valley compare to what else you're hearing and seeing is going on out there? I think sometimes being in a school district, you only see what's right in front of you.
I will say that Boulder Valley School District is really doing an incredible job when it comes to engaging our students and connecting and building plans that will meet their needs. I do have the opportunity to have other outside connections and have had many phone calls asking, like, how did you do this and what does this look like and how do we build the support and we need more information. And then, very honestly, there are some other districts that have set up systems that we also have talked about. So one of the benefits of this process, as terrible as it is that there's a lot of collaboration. But I would tell you the Boulder Valley system is clean, precise, helpful. We've really come out with a customer service focus, and that can be seen in our technology, our delivery, we're doing tech support out at homes. That's something that has not been duplicated anywhere else. And our delivery systems and some other items around instruction support for teachers as well.
I know that, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are starting to hear some information that's indicating that life is not going to get back to, we're going to be in this new normal for a while, that we can't expect that school is going to look exactly the way that it did, in January when we come back even in the fall. This is something that a lot of school districts are starting to look at. I know that we're just, we've been working on some plans in that area. We're going to be coming out with some more information soon, but what would you like to say? I mean, this is something that's on our minds right now, right?
Absolutely, and I would echo that it's on our minds as well. I think one of the greatest advantages for educators is that many of us are parents, so also always kind of thinking like, what is this going to look like in September, on top of the education piece of I have students that I need to think about and consider. And we certainly have started to develop those plans, what that looks like for a full return, a partial return, and those details are being ironed out, obviously all really related to what happens next and the access points that we have for our students and our staff, because we want to make sure that safety is first. And we'll continue to update the community as quickly as we can. I do want to just say thank you so much to Randy and his team. And I know unrelated in terms of the question, but I think one of the key things for us has been the level of communication out to families and community. And that's been instrumental in our parents and teachers and administrators kind of knowing what's happening and what's going on. And I would predict that that will continue, which is very helpful for parents.
And I know, one last question, just that, in regards to, and we're going to talk, to all of our panel about this as well, but the idea that, at the heart of everything that we talk about are the kids, and really the idea that we understand that there's, back to that dichotomy that we see inside the school district, a real variety of situations. As we're looking at plans moving forward, making sure that kids are taken care of, and that, if there's a need moving forward, that they get support, that we're looking at that over the summer into the fall. We don't want to necessarily say catch up, but the idea that no kid, we've always got an issue. I guess I should say with the achievement gap, we're always looking to support kids, but in this case especially, we want to make sure that kids are taken care of. Boy, I just went on and on there, but
it was a great answer.
I answered my own question, I suppose. There. Anything else you want to say on that regard?
No, I would echo exactly what you just shared. I think that what we're really focused on is how do we keep kids where they need to be moving forward, catching up, leading the work, and that is the forefront of our mind at all times.
It's so great to hear from a whole bunch of different voices. And so, love to have a couple other people talk here. Home learning has really changed a lot about the way that we teach. And Marina teaches second grade at University Hill with a lot of young kids. And so she's kind of had to struggle with the idea that, both how to share that information, keep them engaged and interested in, teach them how to use technology. They weren't really using it, to the extent that they are now. Marina, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it's looked like at your school?
Yeah, so, I have to hand it to our kids. They are amazing. I'm just blown away at how quickly they're learning some of these things and just following directions. That first week that we interacted with them, I know my teammate and I worked really hard to do basically individual style conferences with parents so that we can kind of get them used to what it looks like to do a Google Meet so that then they can support their child in it. And it has been so great. We don't always, I actually don't think we've ever had a Google Meet where we have every single student of ours on. But it's a good majority, and they're just doing such a great job. Even, Google Meet, what are the classroom management struggles that we didn't even know to expect? And so, muting yourself and unmuting yourself and raising your hand so that we can see who wants to talk. Those are all things that we are learning on the go also, and they're just doing a great job with it.
One of the things that we were talking last week for a story that we ran in the spot, and I think the story was really great to get to hear from both you and Taren about your experiences. And one of the things that you said that you and your colleagues joke about is that you guys are becoming YouTube stars. I mean, this has really kind of stretched you and brought you into new skill sets. You guys have learned how to be what I was in my past career, which is, TV producer, right? You have to learn how to shoot, you have to learn how to edit. That's a lot of new stuff to learn.
It's been a lot. And, the neat thing about this is now we are producing so many videos and so many ways to communicate with our students that we also get to watch each other do this. And so, we get ideas that way. And it's been a fun experience. It's been stressful also, because it's a steep learning curve for some of us. But once you see that first video, and you see a colleague record themselves and make it fun, make it funny and engaging, then you start to come up with your own ideas and what you think will make what you can do to make it work for your students.
Excellent. Yeah. And Taren, I know you and your husband, who is a physical education teacher at a K-8 school, are dealing with sort of the same kind of struggles, right? You've had to kind of learn how to produce videos, and that, and the electronics and the PE. That's not something that is typically integrated there. I mean, this has been quite the task for you guys.
It has, and I just want to echo a lot of what Marina was saying about how much through the videos we've been able to learn from our colleagues, and not only our colleagues within our own school, but I also have children in BVSD. So just watching his videos and hearing how the teacher's pausing to let them talk to the screen. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do that more. Just all of the teaching techniques that we're able to share with each other that we don't normally get to do because we're just in our rooms, right? We collaborate through discussion, but to watch each other teach has been amazing. But back to your question about the technology, I've learned more about WeVideo in the last 5 weeks than I've learned in the last 2 years that I've tried to use it with kids. So actually doing it and recording and editing and making it engaging and adding pictures and music so that the kids are engaged in the learning on the computer screen has been a huge steep learning curve, but so fun too. I mean, the things that we're doing, especially with the PE videos, has been a fun learning curve, but super time consuming. What you could do in 15 minutes before is now taking 2 or 3 hours. But, we want the kids to keep coming back. So the quality and the what we can do with what we have available is pretty important especially for our youngest learners.
I know you've got 3 kids, and so that in itself is a lot to kind of keep track of in terms of home learning and all that kind of thing. You're doing this. One of the things that we talked about was that, really, you're kind of upside down in terms of the time that you're spending with kids. You're waking up early, trying to get things together. Like you said, the videos and that kind of stuff are sort of on that periphery of your day. And then during the day, you're trying to kind of connect with kids because it's one of the things that I think really hit me hard in talking to you for the story is just the idea that, you don't have the ability to do the normal things that you would in a classroom, walking around a 5th grade classroom, looking over the kid, a kid's shoulder and saying, oh, I see that you've written that word. Have you thought about going this way with that? And that to me was like, wow, that is a huge difference. And so how are you connecting with kids right now?
Yeah, I mean, so the time, that we spend creating the videos is totally separate than our workday right now, right? Our workday is filled with connecting with kids and giving kids feedback in a digital format, which, like you said, Randy, is so different than it was in the classroom. In the classroom, we can just be like, hey, I noticed you started the problem this way. Have you thought about that? And it takes seconds. And right now, we're having to give feedback and connect with kids in multiple ways through Google Meets, through Google Hangouts. I even started this week actually recording videos of myself to give to kids. So hopefully they'll even watch my feedback rather than try to read my feedback on their Google document and try to do something about it. So, I mean, I'm connecting with kids lots face to face, and the majority are coming. Not everybody yet, but just the time that it takes to read what work, to review the work that they have completed, and then figure out the best way for that child to give them feedback and connect with them has been an interesting process. And I just said to my whole class yesterday in our class meeting, I'm going to be a YouTube star before you, excited about becoming YouTube. Some are excited about the possibilities of being millionaires by being YouTube stars, but I think the individual videos was just something I started this week as a way to connect so that they could see me, even if it wasn't live, because some kids, that's a really hard reality within their homes. So seeing me just one-on-one and individual videos is another way I'm trying to connect. But like I've said before, it's just such an interesting process when you think about what you could do in the classroom in under 5 minutes. Now to really make it meaningful and relevant is a whole different process, right? And it's a priority of mine and my teammates in our school to make it relevant and keep them coming back. And I think one way we can do that is by the feedback and the ways we connect with them, right? So we want them to keep coming back for more. So it's an important part of what we're doing.
I want to get to our secondary friends in just a second, but before I do, Marina, I know you were talking about too that one of the key pieces of feedback that you got this last week was, you guys were doing a lot with that kind of FaceTime on the computer, and the parents were like, it's a lot of screen time. And so you guys had to kind of rejigger what you were doing with your classrooms. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We heard that message from our parents, and really had to take a step back ourselves and say, you know what, they're right. We are spending a lot of time ourselves on the computer now, which is not what we're used to. And so, just finding different ways to deliver lessons that that'll get the kids to look at the content, but then also maybe come up with a project that gets them, off the screen. So for Earth Day, for example, last week, that was a perfect day where, we celebrate Earth Day, we have some videos for you to watch, but now go and make a reusable bag out of a t-shirt. And so we got pictures from kids that were doing that, a lot of pictures of kids planting seeds in their gardens. And so all of those resources that are coming out, I know I have a parent who works for the Thorn organization, and they also have the Outside Everyday Challenge, which is perfect. That came at the perfect time now that the weather's getting better, and we just want to encourage parents, those count. Those are activities that we want to see, and we need your kids to be outside every day if they can, obviously being safe and following what guidelines we have for safety, but definitely we want them to see the sunshine, just like they do at recess.
Yeah, I love the fact that you brought that up. I know that we as a school district have been trying to support that message that it can be easy. And I find myself, and I think a lot of adults right now are in that world of Zoom after Zoom meeting. We do Google Hangouts all the time. It's like back to back. And you find yourself like, you get up, get to work at, 7 or 8, and you may not leave your computer all day long. Like, you got to get outside. And for kids, even more important, they should have the opportunity to get out there and play and that kind of thing. So thank you for bringing that up. I'd love to, turn to John Riggs and just ask sort of a similar question in terms of, what, at an elementary level, I think that we're definitely, and I do want to mention too that it's a little different from school to school, right, and from class to class in terms of how all these teachers and all these principals are doing this. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind too, that it's not just a one size fits all. We're really giving some flexibility between schools to find a place. At an elementary level, they try to make those connections with students and have, meetings in which you can see your teacher and they get to see their friends and classmates. There's also assignments that go on that they're expected to go and return. What does that look like at a middle school level, John?
Well, for many of our kids, I mean, the part that they're missing the most is that connection with each other. You talk about social emotional learning, and social emotional are words that come up in middle school quite frequently, and our kids are really longing to connect with one another. And so we've actually gone maybe just the opposite of actually increasing the opportunities for these live classes or just social check-ins. Not every one of our online classes is really academic. It's really sometimes focused on kids just getting to laugh together, to see each other face to face. I think one thing our middle school kids have learned is that social media is really not the best way to connect, and they're really longing for that ability to once again to get to be able to see each other physically, to give high fives and to connect with one another. So we've actually, done a little bit more, moving away from, less screen time to actually maybe more physical contact through video, so that our kids are feeling much more connected with one another.
And I think about middle school level being a perfect time for kids to really establish good study skills and some independency, right? Like you can, have a schedule and do those kind of things. Do you see that kind of taking shape with your kids at this level?
I think it's like you said earlier, that flexibility from school to school. We also have to look at flexibility from student to student. For some kids who, middle school, that social aspect of middle school is overwhelming. This has become actually their favorite part of middle school learning. They've actually adhered to this and said, hey, this is my thing. I can be successful here. Where other kids are really struggling with the fact that, that inability to actually see and connect with their friends has made this more challenging. So we really have to be flexible around the individual needs of our kids. We have some kids who we check in with more frequently than others because there's a need there for them to connect with either their teachers or counselors in the school, administrators. I've even found myself recently attending some of the online classes and checking in with kids as well. Seeing their principal sometimes is actually pretty cool when you haven't seen him in a while. And one of the questions that were asked the other day is, what do you miss most about school? And fortunately, I was towards the end, so I had a lot of time to process that. And I shared with him that, lunch duty is what I miss because, as a principal, that is my opportunity to really connect with kids in a social way where we're not talking about academics, but we're just being a human being to human being. And I miss my kids, and I miss that time hanging out with them at lunch and seeing all their squirreliness. And I'm ready to take some of that back from these parents who are struggling with it. I'm all for it. Let's get back.
I love in Superintendent Anderson's message to seniors that he just sent out on Friday. One of the things that he said in the video was before the big reveal at the end, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, you have to check out the end of that video. But he was talking about all this feedback that we get from students normally about snow days and how much they want them. And now he's getting feedback from students that are like, okay, enough already. We're ready to go back to school. Yeah, I don't kind of love the change of events there. But I think one of the things go ahead. I'm sorry.
The middle schoolers are surprised how much they miss actually being at school. They really are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a day or two of a snow day is one thing. This is something wholly different. They're really missing friends. I think one of the things that you hit in regards to the social emotional aspect is how important that really is. I mean, our kids need that. They need that connection. They need that. It's a schedule. It's that ability to see other people that are like them, friends, that kind of thing. I know that when I was talking to Taren earlier, one of the things that she talked about was that teachers serve a role as being, sort of the peace in the storm. I mean, this is a crazy, scary time for all of us. Do you feel like, and have you seen that, with your teachers, John, in terms of, being that calm, in all this is going on?
Yeah, I've got a great group of teachers at Manhattan, and lucky to have the team that we have. They're really doing a great job of connecting with and engaging kids. They meet on a weekly basis on grade level teams and really have discussions around students who are struggling. And we've got a great engagement team that has come together with my assistant principal, our counselors, and community liaison that really kind of focus on those kids who this may be not working for the same way it is for other students, and really engaging and calling those kids more frequently, engaging in conversations with their parents to make sure that the needs of those kids are being met. When we talk about the gap in learning, it's just accentuated by the situation we're currently under, and looking for all the people on the team to do their part to really make this the best learning opportunity that we have for all kids.
Taren, I know when we were speaking about this, that the idea that to a certain extent, academics are important. I mean, we want to keep kids learning, obviously. We want to keep them progressing. But honestly, if we're able to take care of their, emotional state at this point and have them return back to school, still feeling like school is a safe place, I mean, that would be a win in the end.
I 100% agree. I just feel like human connection right now, just the opportunity to connect with each other with with their teachers, with their counselors, with their principals is what we can do if we do anything else for kids. I wish that we could all just let ourselves off the hook a little bit and realize that if we're connecting with kids and we're maintaining those strong relationships with kids and families, that's what they're going to need coming back to school, however that will look in the fall. Because authentic learning takes place in the real world, right? If they're moving and creating and playing and having new relationships with their families that they didn't even know existed, I think that's what's going to keep us all striving to move forward in these unprecedented times.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I want to bring Paul into the conversation, Mr. Strode from Fairview. I know that, usually you and I are talking about this time of year about kids that are going off and succeeding in terms of, competing at Regeneron, big science competitions nationally. I think we have a kid that's up there this year. I mean, I can imagine that the kids that would be in your seminar, the kids that are in your IB AP classes, they're having issues, but maybe even in a different way than other kids too. I mean, they're worried about making sure that they're hitting this big mark for college. Talk about what your situation's like. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, most of the kids that I teach are seniors, and I ache for them, because this is the senior year in high school. There's nothing like it, and graduation. There's just nothing like it. I would guess almost every kid goes to his or her high school graduation, but maybe not so much college. And when I first saw them online, when we had our first meeting, I could just see it in their faces that this is just not what they had thought about their senior year. But they're handling it okay. I'm fortunate that I teach a lot of I don't know how to describe them. They're quite motivated kids. They're taking the AP and IB classes, doing the IB diploma, and so they. I think they're putting I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to function for them. I want these last few weeks to be relevant learning for them. And so I feel like I've been working pretty hard to try and find that special sauce that really gets to the core of the curriculum and the learning that I want to happen here at the end of the year. And at the very beginning, I thought I had everything figured out with Zoom, and so my first week I used Zoom, and it was working great and everything, and I wasn't dialed into all the safety issues with Zoom, and then all of a sudden the district came out and said, "Oh, wait, no, actually that's not something that's approved, and we don't have a student privacy contract with them," and so I had to figure out how I was going to use Google Meets to create quote breakout rooms, to create my table groups that I have in the classroom and get them talking to each other, and it's still pretty clunky, but there's been a good patch that I and I'm sure lots of other teachers have come up with. Hopefully, both Zoom will figure out how to function better for schools, and Google will figure out how to function better for schools through this process. And I'm guessing that there's going to be maybe a paradigm shift in this kind of technology. So yeah, it's been an interesting challenge. I feel like it's forced me to become more creative and more efficient and more streamlined in what I'm doing and what's important. I found it interesting that I'm using Screencastify, the free version, which limits me to 5 minutes, and so I'm used to having a 45-minute discussion with my class, and with me moving around the room and talking to kids and having slides up, and now I have to figure out how can I do this in 5 minutes. And so that's been really really good, really I think interesting for me.
Well, Well, I can imagine that could be something that gets reflected in the way that we teach moving forward. Maybe there are new ways that we structure our learning, in future years.
Yeah, and I think, and I emailed you a document before this about grading. So this may not be as big of a deal in the elementary and middle school levels, but the high school level, the question about grading has been creating a lot of anxiety for both teachers and students. And maybe this is an opportunity for us to think differently about grading and how and what grades are and how important they are and how important points are in the classroom. And my wife, Sarah Zerwin, and I, Sarah teaches language arts at Fairview. She and I and some other teachers have run pointless classrooms for several years now. And so this transition to trying to figure out how to get to the grade for our classes and students has been a no-brainer. It's easy. We just use the same process that we've used for the last several years. And students look at a set of guidelines that we have given them at the beginning of the year, and they select how they performed, and then they back it up with evidence. And so it hasn't changed anything about how my students are going to get to their grades. But however, I must say that at the high school level, and again, I'm not sure, John, about the middle school level, but we've told students that the default is a pass no grade, and that's come down from the district. And so students have to let their counselors know if they want to actually end up with grades in their classes. Otherwise, in all their classes, they will get either a pass or just no grade. And the no grade is basically if they haven't done anything really. If they came into the quarantine not really functioning up to par and they really haven't, quote, shown up. But I've found it. I asked some of my APIB bio kids this morning about that, and many of them are going with the pass no grade, even though they're all mostly straight A students. And the colleges and universities around the country, of course, it's not like they don't know what's happening, so they know that's this is a weird semester.
It is definitely weird. I know, the idea that at high school level, I think our official stance had been, you get to keep the grade that you got, or you can improve. And then at middle school is the pass, no grade kind of idea. And then, obviously some nuances at schools. One of the questions that we got from Liz, who actually is a parent at your school, a freshman student, is, how do you help your teen who is floundering without structure? They're having trouble focusing, getting through all the emails in Google Classroom, School G communications, et cetera. Try to keep them on task. It sounds like the student, maybe refusing help from the parents. I know, working with my own kids, sometimes things that come from a parent aren't as serious as something that comes from a teacher. Has trouble really, looking at the work and understanding what's going on there. Good student, but just having that trouble self-motivating. Any sort of tips that you might have for them?
Boy, I should bring in my 16-year-old daughter to answer that.
Get some feedback from her. Yeah.
Yeah. I see her struggle with motivation, and she's, we've been asked to not give students any more than 30 minutes of work a day in our classes, and that includes if we're online for 30 minutes with them, that's it. That we can't be expected, for them to do a 30-minute worksheet or something in addition to the online conversation that we've had. And she had a teacher that she felt like was giving a lot more work than the 30 minutes a day, and she just wasn't doing it. She was having trouble being motivated to do it, and so Sarah and I encouraged her to just email her teacher. Maybe her teacher's not aware, and I think all teachers we're all receptive to that feedback. We want to make sure we're hitting it right for all the students, and we're stressed out, and we know they're stressed out, and so that feedback is really, I think, is really helpful. So I'm hopeful that her teen, this parent that got in touch with you, would feel comfortable just sending a quick email to the teacher saying, I'm struggling with motivation and keeping up. Do you have any advice for me? That would be, I would love to get that kind of feedback from students.
And I think that, I mean, it is something that we hear quite often at a district level, this idea that I think that there might be this fear that you could, ruffle feathers or make somebody upset, or that there could be something that comes back. But I think most of our educators, 99%, 99.9% want to hear that feedback so that they can better serve students.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, I'm going to kind of go round robin around the group now and just sort of ask, for folks, what, like that, I think, Paul, that was a great way to start. What tips would you give to parents in regards to ways that they might be able to support their students through this, knowing that we're trying to give grace and understanding? What would you guys suggest? Anybody want to kind of kick it off?
I would just say, I know it's even true for me, having a routine of when I do work, when I'm home, because for me, this is not what I signed up. I did not sign up to be an online principal, and figuring out how to do that, and how do I juggle my dogs, constantly. I'm here. Why aren't you paying attention to me? So really creating that time for everything, that everything has its place, and to not forget to laugh together. I think that's important.
I think that's awesome feedback. Marina, how about you? What do you think?
Keep it positive. There's a lot of things that we're listening to every single day, and just a tough situation we're all going through. And so just really taking the time to make this experience as positive as it can be, even through the difficulty.
Awesome. Taren.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. I also just want parents out there to know that, like, we trust you as educators, like what's working for, what needs to happen in your home, whether, the student can't finish all of the assignments that were given, or it's just too much for your family. Like, we trust you. My husband, Pete, got an email today as a PE teacher, like you mentioned, saying, like, we're trying to keep up and so sorry we haven't filled out your form to say what we're doing in PE. And he wrote back just saying, like, I'm glad that you care, but we trust you, and just do what's best for your family. And so if parents could just do what's best for their family and realize that, like, learning can happen without an assignment being given in Google Classroom. Like, go out and enjoy each other's company, like, the real world out there, cooking together, skipping down the street. It is learning, right? It can be fun. And so to just really soak up every day, I have to remind myself as a parent, like, I'm never going to get this kind of quality time with my kids ever again, possibly, right? Like, even having young children, like, after school, typically it's baseball and it's dance and it's what are we going to have for dinner and returning the books to the library. And so just to, like, be with the times that nobody can change and just trust yourself and do what's best for your family is my best advice, because I'm trying it every day with a lot of guilt and shame at times too. But we just need to trust each other, and that we're all doing our best and have grace.
And I think one of the things that you said to me also is just the idea that, you lay awake at night sometimes thinking about, have I done enough for these kids that are, maybe a little bit more vulnerable, that might need a little bit more support. It's important that all of our families take a little bit of, a little bit of grace there, but it's important for our teachers as well to feel we're doing as much as we can there. Anything else that you want to say in that regard, Taren? Oh, yeah. I think there you go.
Sorry. Like I tell my kids, like, the nervousness of turning off the video time. I just feel like the continuum is so big, right? Of the parents that are fully involved and can help their kids with every assignment, to the essential workers that don't have the ability to support their kids so much. And so I just think that realizing, all of us stepping back and realizing the huge equity issues that are presenting themselves right now with parents that are full-time essential workers, I just think that all of our lives are upended right now. And so we just need to strike a balance between all of the expectations and trying to support everyone and not feeling overwhelmed, I think is the best that we can do right now. Because I stay awake thinking about, have I done enough to support especially my most at-risk kids, and the kids that are watching all of their siblings, like you mentioned in the beginning, and just have I done enough? And I feel like if I can just continue my strong relationship with them and connect with them every day, I've done enough. So hopefully people realize the continuum is huge.
Awesome. Thanks for adding that. Margaret, is there anything that you would like to add in regards to tips for parents?
So I just want to add that, yes, everything that everyone has said is so important through this whole process. Giving yourself a lot of space to be okay with where you are and enjoying family as much as you possibly can are key. If you have an issue, if there's a parent that has a concern or somebody needs some help, please reach out. We have numbers all the time that are available. We have access and communication that goes on every night. Your teachers are available. Reach out to your teachers and your principals. They're all here to help. This is the most partnership we've ever had because we have to do it together. And I think there are a lot of opportunities to continue to build that partnership as parents and schools and community.
And I think that's a really good segue to, I'm going to share my screen real quick here. And, we do have this great graphic that we've created that really kind of shows parents that there's multiple ways that you can get help. If you've got questions about academics, as our teachers were saying, reach out to your teacher. They want to hear from you. They want to have that connection, that back and forth. If you feel like that you're having some sort of issue, if your students just not getting connected, or they're having some sort of, a trouble, they definitely want to hear from you. Your principal is there to help too. I know sometimes we'll hear about parents that are having these issues where maybe it's multiple teachers in the school, changing something like the schedule or whatever, and they feel, flustered by that and they're struggling with that. That's an okay thing to reach out to a principal, or again, if you need to, if your teacher doesn't, if they don't feel like they're listening and helping you out, you can always talk to your principal. We also have, people like Margaret and people that are in our administrative office that can help as well. If you have IT trouble, we know that students are using more IT than ever before. They're using computers, they're using iPads to try to stay connected. We have this IT help desk that can really help. We've also got on our website a lot of resources that can help, but 720-561-HELP is the line there. We know that a lot of people are struggling right now when it comes to the stresses of this. I was talking to somebody today about just how 5 weeks into this whole situation, and it feels more now like this is going to be forever. And if I'm feeling that stress, I know everyone's feeling that stress right now. It's important to know that your student and you have the ability to reach out to the school counselor and talk through issues. They can set up a session for a student to be able to talk about their feelings and get help if they need it. There are hotlines out there as well. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is wonderful if you have a student or somebody in the community that you know is really, really struggling. Additionally, the Colorado Crisis Services hotline at 1-844-493-TALK is a wonderful resource to help out with that. Health issues, we still have our school nurses, and they're busy helping people out. If you have an issue with health, it could be that somebody in your family is struggling with COVID, or they could be, having some sort of issue that's impacting their learning, and they need some support around that. Our nurses are there to support. They can answer questions about the coronavirus and all that kind of thing as well. Finally, if you don't know where to start, and that's where a lot of our parents are when it first starts, we have a family helpline. It's 720-770-0102. And that is a great place. It's a bilingual helpline where you can leave a message and they will get you to the right person or answer your question right there. Just really great resource if you don't know where to start and where to go. I'd love to kind of wrap things up and give everybody a chance. One last thing. It's sometimes hard, during the thing, you want to say one more thing. This is a great opportunity to do that. And so I'll start backwards first. Mr. Strode from Fairview, what else would you like to add to this conversation?
Well, I just want to circle back to what something Margaret said at the very beginning about how BVSD has handled this. it's been absolutely incredible what BVSD has done, and I think we were fortunate in that we decided to basically create 6 snow days, I guess, and then we had spring break, and so there was time to do a lot of planning and to get a lot of the infrastructure in place. But I have friends who teach all over the country, and I just hear horror stories about what districts have decided and not decided to do. And one of my friends, his school just told the seniors, "You're done. You guys are done. You're off the hook." And how unfortunate that is for the seniors. They don't want to just be turned loose, because what are they being turned loose into? And another school in my sister's school district, they threw in the towel for everyone, because they were afraid that, well, if we can't provide access to everyone, we're not going to provide it to anyone. And so they sent out some resources and said, "Here, kids, if you want to keep learning, here are some things you can do." I'm so impressed with what BVSD has done, and what the leadership from Dr. Anderson, and nobody put me up to this, but it's really, as a teacher and as a parent, it's really been quite remarkable.
And I'll just give you a shout out too, that on Twitter, I believe it's Twitter, right? That you are doing on a pretty regular basis haikus that have to do with the situation, and they're totally creative. I mean, again, I think, how do you take that energy? Mr. Strode has taken it to haiku land. So thank you for sharing that creativity. Mr. Riggs from Manhattan, what else would you like to add?
Well, I just want people to know that we've got the right people in the right places doing the right work, and we're all going to do this together. We're going to come out on the other side, and we're learning a lot right now of what we can implement into a regular classroom when we get back. And so, we're just being forced to learn in a very fast way, but there are going to be great benefits from that come out from this for learning in the future. And if you need us, let us know. We're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Villecco, anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think my final message is just remember that every day is a different day. And just as a mom and as a teacher, some days my son is perfectly motivated individual, and other days I feel like if I'm not sitting right next to him, he's not engaged in the online learning. And so every day is a new day, and that learning is supposed to be social. So let's continue to work together to support whatever we can do to help learning be social, and remember that each day is a new day, and reach out, because I agree with everyone. We are here to help, and if I don't know, I can't help. So, yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Ms. Orozco-Ngu.
So one of the things I learned today was a new recipe for ceviche from Peru, and flan recipe. So those are things that just opportunities that I might not have gotten to know about my kids had we not been in this situation. And so those are some of the things that I'm just taking as little gifts right out of this. And maybe in the future I do want to ask those questions in a different way within our classroom, but it's just been nice to see what opportunities have come out of this.
Awesome. And Ms. Crespo.
So I would just say in closing, it's always so inspiring to hear from our educators and know that they have the greatest impact on our students every day. And I want to also share that we are all in this together for all kids. And never has that been truer as we focus on partnership and resiliency moving forward into the future together. We've got this. And I would tell parents, it's all good. We will get through this together.
Thank you. And I just want to thank one more time all of our panelists for joining us today. Just great insights and just the heart. I love the heart of the school district. You can tell that people care deeply about kids, and we want to do so much to help them. And I want to thank everybody that tuned in. As Margaret said, we are all in this together. We will make it through this time. And thank you for joining Let's Talk Education. Have a great week.